For weeks, the Dallas Mavericks fanbase has been reeling from the blockbuster trade that sent their beloved superstar, Luka Dončić, to the Los Angeles Lakers. The anger and frustration among fans have been palpable, leading to protests and heated criticism directed at the team's front office. Now, just recently, Mavericks general manager Nico Harrison has finally addressed the controversial move publicly, holding a news conference to explain the decision and address the fallout. In a surprising admission, Harrison acknowledged that he underestimated the depth of the fans' reaction. After a period of relative public silence on the trade and a poorly received attempt to hold a private roundtable with select reporters, Harrison faced the media. He admitted that he knew Luka Dončić was important to the fanbase, stating, "I knew Luka was important to the fanbase. But then came the surprising confession. I didn't quite know it to what level." He added a moment later, acknowledging the intensity of the backlash. "When you have 20,000 people chanting, 'Fire Nico,' you feel it." This is a stark admission from a GM, acknowledging the visceral and widespread anger directed at him personally since the trade. Harrison's primary goal during the news conference was to justify the trade from a basketball perspective. He continued to emphasize the notion that Luka Dončić was traded because defense wins championships. According to Harrison, the Dallas roster was fundamentally better suited for building a championship team with a focus on defense after the trade was made. He outlined the theoretical, championship-caliber team that he and the front office envisioned with the players acquired in the deal. "The way we looked at it is if you're putting a team on the floor that's Kyrie, Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis and Derek Lively. We feel that's a championship-caliber team," he stated. This reveals the vision behind the move, aiming for a roster mix that prioritized defense and size around Kyrie Irving. However, Harrison also acknowledged the unfortunate reality that injuries prevented this envisioned team from ever truly being seen on the floor, stating, "We would have been winning at a high level and that would have quieted some of the outrage." He understands that the lack of on-court success post-trade, due to key injuries, only fueled the fans' frustration. Harrison also took responsibility for the communication breakdown with the fanbase and media after the trade. He admitted that he and the Mavericks organization didn't do a good enough job of communicating their reasoning and vision following the deal. However, he insisted that he didn't actively try to avoid speaking to reporters, despite appearances to the contrary, stating, "Our goal is to never run away from the media." He also acknowledged that the attempt at a small media roundtable without cameras or recording devices, fell flat, because it failed to adequately answer the pressing questions about the trade. Addressing the question of why he shouldn't be fired given the team's recent struggles and the fan anger, Harrison defended his overall performance as general manager over his nearly 4 years in the role. "I think I've done a really good job here," he said. He argued that his job performance shouldn't be judged solely by this past season, which was significantly impacted by injuries, stating, "I don't think I can be judged by injuries this year. You have to be judged in totality from beginning to end." He also mentioned having a good relationship with team owner Patrick Dumont. Harrison also explicitly denied one of the other major theories surrounding the trade, that it was made to avoid paying Luka Dončić a massive supermax contract extension that would have totaled $345 million over 5 years. He stated that owner Patrick Dumont did not tell him to trade Dončić to avoid this financial commitment, countering the idea that the trade was driven by financial rather than basketball reasons. Throughout the news conference, Harrison made repeated attempts to signal a desire to move past the trade and focus on the future of the team as it is currently constructed. Twice, he specifically stated, "Luka's no longer on this team," a phrase meant to emphasize the need to look forward. Harrison believes that his vision for the Mavericks, led by Kyrie Irving, who he expects to opt into his $44 million player option for next season, will ultimately be realized with a fully healthy roster, leading to a return to championship contention. He concluded by acknowledging the strained relationship with the fanbase and outlining his hope for how it can be repaired. "I believe winning will help repair the relationship with the fans," he said. This statement encapsulates his understanding that ultimately, the most effective way to quiet the outrage and rebuild trust is by putting a winning product back on the court. However, as the article notes, The shadow of the Luka Dončić trade will likely hang over Nico Harrison for as long as he remains the general manager. Especially if the Mavericks are not successful next season and in the years to come. His belief in his vision and his hope for winning to mend fences are clear. But the path forward remains challenging after such a controversial decision. What do you make of Nico Harrison's comments? Do you believe his justifications for the trade? Let us know in the comments below.
Nico Harrison admitted he significantly underestimated how deeply Mavericks fans felt about Luka Dončić. He said hearing "Fire Nico" chanted by 20,000 people at home games drove home the lesson that Dončić wasn't just a star player. He was the emotional heartbeat of the franchise. That kind of bond can't be quantified on a scouting report. Harrison doubled down on his defense wins championships rationale, pointing to a hypothetical lineup of Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, PJ Washington, Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively as a defensive juggernaut. In theory, that group would have delivered immediate wins and quelled the outrage. In practice, injuries to Irving and Davis meant that vision never materialized, leaving fans to wonder why the Mavericks dismantled their identity without ever reaping the rewards. Communication missteps compounded the problem. Harrison's small, off-the-record media roundtable was meant to explain his thinking, but fell flat, as he admitted. By barring cameras and recorders, the meeting backfired. Fans and reporters felt shut out rather than brought in. An effective PR strategy would have combined transparency with honest acknowledgement of the emotional stakes, not a closed-door forum that only fueled perception of evasion. When pressed about avoiding Luka's supermax contract, Harrison insisted no one in ownership pressured him to sidestep the payday. He pointed to his overall 4-year track record and his close relationship with team governor Patty Dumont, asking that his tenure be judged on totality rather than one injury-plagued season. Yet for many fans, that one move looms larger than any previous success. Twice in his remarks, Harrison asserted, "Luka's no longer on this team," clearly trying to shift focus to the future. He's banking on Kyrie Irving, who's expected to pick up his $44 million option, to lead a rebound. "Winning will help repair the relationship with the fans," he said. But rebuilding trust requires more than victories. It demands consistent, open communication and a roster that reflects both strategic vision and respect for the fan base's emotional investment. Next season will be the true test of Harrison's leadership. Can he guide a healthier, more stable roster to success? And can he bridge the gap between front office decisions and the Mavericks community's loyalty? How he handles both the wins and the words will define his legacy in Dallas.